Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, brothers and sisters in Islam and everyone who's following the Aware Academy YouTube channel. Welcome back to this new series which will start today inshallah ta'ala, titled Halal Intimacy. This series inshallah will be based on a book that I just purchased from Dakwah Bookstore in Malaysia. Those who don't know, Dakwah Bookstore and Brother Farid and the entire team, mashallah, in Malaysia, I will include their link in the description below this video inshallah. But this book is amazing. It's titled Halal Intimacy from the Islamic perspective, strictly for married and prospective couples. I don't think that single people shouldn't read the book or shouldn't watch my video series, but I think the author is worried about the language of the book, which is so descriptive and could perhaps lead the imagination of single people to participate in any inappropriate sexual activities. Nevertheless, the book is an amazing initiative that I congratulate the author for actually taking such a step, such a courageous step, dealing with such a taboo topic in a very open manner that is absolutely needed for our guidance, because I've been dealing with couples, married couples, who will come after a year of the marriage or 2 years or the like, complaining about few things that they have discovered after marriage, some of them related to porn addiction, sexual dysfunction, and they didn't know, they didn't have any guidance on dealing with these situations prior to their marriage, and as a result sometimes the entire marriage would be collapsed and end up either in divorce or infidelity and the like. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. Today's episode, I'll just run you through the content, the table of content. First of all, I tried to reach to the author himself to seek his permission to discuss the content of his book on my YouTube channel. I couldn't reach him, unfortunately. I sent a couple of messages on a few pages that I found on the internet. So if you know the author directly, kindly contact him and advise him to be in touch with me, inshallah. Perhaps we can collaborate and maybe invite him one of those episodes to interview him on the idea of halal intimacy in this amazing book. Once again, the title of the book is Halal Intimacy from the Islamic perspective, strictly for married and prospective couples. And mashallah, tabarakallah, the foreword of the book was written by Dr. Abu Amina Bilal Phillips, which means he had endorsed the idea, endorsed the whole project of speaking and talking openly about this subject. Of course, Dr. Abu Amina Bilal Phillips does not need any introduction. He's the founder of the Islamic Online University. Also, I will leave a link to his online university, inshallah, in the video, in the description of the video, and also had written plenty of books. One of them is my favorite book of Tawheed, the fundamentals of Tawheed. Go and look it up, inshallah ta'ala. But let's get into the table of content of Halal Intimacy and see what the author is discussing. And inshallah ta'ala, we will dedicate an episode for each chapter. Perhaps if there are chapters that need further elaboration, we will extend it as much as we can. Let's see how the entire series will go on videos. Hopefully I will do justice to what the author had compiled, inshallah ta'ala. So let's get into the table of content first. So after the foreword of Dr. Bilal Phillips, then an introduction to the entire book, comes a chapter dedicated to marriage in Islam, the importance of marriage in Islam. And then the author started to list down things about marriage in general, like the importance of early marriages and how can we prepare our young generations and educate them about the importance of marriage so that they can have it in mind instead of having the idea of premarital sexual relationship and the like, boyfriends and girlfriends relationship, which is prohibited in Islam. And then sexual hygiene is another chapter. Now this is after marriage. So when you get married, inshallah ta'ala, it's very important for couples to take care of their hygienic habits that is also outlined within the life of the Prophet ﷺ and within Islam in general. Sex and communication. How can we communicate our desires to each other? Many a times couples will be shy to speak about their sexual preferences and moves and the like with their own spouses. A husband would be shy to express his desire to his wife, and likewise the wife would be shy to express herself. SubhanAllah, although Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described that we are the closest to each other, هُنَّ لِبَاسٌ لَكُمْ وَأَنْتُمْ لِبَاسٌ لَهُنْ. They are your garments and you are their garments. And garments are the closest to our bodies. So wives and husbands should be open about communication when it comes to sexual relationship. Seduction, a chapter dedicated about seduction. Now the language will get a little bit tough here, and I want you to bear with me that everything now from now on is only related to a husband and wife, which means it's absolutely permissible for a husband and wife to, for example, dress sexy for one another, dress in a manner that can seduce their husbands or their wives sexually, to attract each other to the relationship of this intimate sexual relationship, because it's part of the package of being married to one another. There is also a chapter about erotic talk, like how can you talk in a manner that can attract your husband or your wife to that relationship. There is a chapter about sexting. I didn't read it yet. I'm telling you, I didn't read it yet. I will be reading it, commenting on anything that perhaps I may not agree with, because I've been in the field of dealing with porn addicts and the like, and sometimes even a husband and wife who are living far from each other, and sexting, meaning showing each other on cameras in seductive way, could lead to a lot of harms than benefits. So we will read it and inshallah honestly comment and review the book. There is also a chapter on massages for one another. There is a chapter about kissing, about oral sex, about fingering, hand job. All these things are mentioned in the context of dealing with your halal spouse. I believe wholeheartedly that there are many actions that could be labeled by scholars as haram, as prohibited. We will bring all these opinions as we discuss the book, inshallah. I also believe that any action which is considered to be halal, but one of the partners dislike such an action, they should not be forced to participate. We will also talk about that, inshallah, and what forcing could lead to in a relationship like this. The author is also courageous enough to discuss chapters about sex styles and positions, which are also very, very important sometimes to break the boredom of such a relationship. The timing of sexual intimacy is also discussed. And then talking about the fiqhi matters of sexual intimacy in the nights of Ramadan. There are 2 chapters dedicated to fertility and pregnancy, sexual intimacy during those times. There are also chapters dedicated to sexual performance, and if the performance wasn't good enough to please your partner, what should you do about it? And there are 2 chapters dedicated to masturbation and pornography. I'd like to see what the author mentioned about the fiqhi opinion or the verdict about masturbation and pornography in Islam, and also what are the possible solutions if you discovered or found out that your husband or your wife being addicted to such intense addictive behavior. Also a chapter dedicated to sexual dysfunction, erectile dysfunction and or anorgasmia for ladies, and sometimes they do not experience the necessary pleasure during sexual intimacy with their lawful spouses, and that could be related to their prior addiction to pornography or masturbation. A chapter dedicated to boosting one's libido. Sometimes in such a relationship, the bodies become so accustomed to one another, so they don't feel the same attractions as before. So how can we boost our libidos and our appetite for sexual intimacy when we experience that cold feelings to each other? There are also chapters dedicated to sex and stress. I don't know what the author is trying to discuss here. We're gonna get into the book and discuss it on videos later on, inshallah. There's also one chapter here on sex and polygyny, and how polygamy in general bothers our sisters a lot, and sometimes it causes a lot of anxiety in a relationship when the husband usually threatens their wives that if you don't follow my lead, if you don't do this, if you don't perform like this, I will get another wife, I have a right, and so on. And they use this as a tool to threaten their wives to comply with anything. So we'll discuss, inshallah, in great details when we come to that chapter. There is love in sharing. I don't know what the author meant by this, but we'll get to that chapter and inform you, inshallah ta'ala. Size issues also discussed. Sometimes people who are addicted to pornography because of the images they see, whether a male will be watching different sizes, different bodies, and then compare them to his wife, and as a result such husbands lose interest in sexual intimacy with their spouses. But likewise, women who are watching or addicted to pornography, they started also comparing organs and body parts to what their husbands already have. Sex starvation, again, I don't know what the author meant yet. I didn't come to that chapter yet, but we'll get to it, inshallah ta'ala. Orgasm and cuddling is also discussed. That's why perhaps you now know why the author on the cover said strictly for married and prospective couples, because the issues of marriage and intimacy are discussed in a very brave manner and in a very descriptive way. Because I believe the author is wise enough to understand that these things, the sexual urges, the sexual desires that Allah had created and built within our system, absolutely necessary and part of our existence, just like food and water and other necessities. So we need to describe them in a manner that does not leave any room for confusion, because Islam is a complete way of life and sex and marriage is part of this life. So we need to also be guided according to the methodology revealed to our beloved Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. So I congratulate really the author for taking that brave step. There are also chapters dedicated to holding or reciting the Quran while you are in a state of janaba. So after having sexual intimacy with your spouse, can you read Quran before bathing? Can you recite the Quran before taking that required shower? We will get to that inshallah ta'ala. How to perform janaba. These are very important topics that sometimes we look at them trivially and we don't pay much attention or importance to them, but they are part of our religion and we have to pay attention to them, especially those who are about to get married. Inshallah, you need to educate yourself on these issues before marriage. Also chapters on water for ghusl, how to bathe, purification with tayammum or dried ablution, and this is the last chapter actually in the book. So I am so looking forward to start reading, preparing my talks and videos and posting them perhaps once every few days or once every week. I hope and I pray that it will benefit the Muslim Ummah at great length. I advise you to grab the book. It's available from Dakwah Bookstore in Malaysia. It can be shipped. They ship it, mashallah, within 4 days or 5 days. I got my copy here and a bunch of other books that perhaps we can, inshallah, dedicate series of videos to discuss their values and bring these benefits to a greater number of Muslims around the world, inshaAllah ta'ala. That was it for the introductory session of this amazing book, Halal Intimacy by Ustadth Abdullateef Abdullahi. And inshaAllah ta'ala, the next episode, I am planning to discuss the foreword of Dr. Bilal Phillips, and then we can take it one bit, one step at the time, inshallah. Stay tuned. If you found benefits in this series, in this video, kindly share it, subscribe to our channel, and inform people in your circle. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.